Okay, here's the kicker. Get this. Saudi Arabia is having a comedy festival this month. Really? Saudi Arabia. It's gonna be great. If you die on stage, you get 72 virgins. And Chappelle is performing. If you told me years ago that Saudi Arabia would be cool to have Dave Chappelle speak and England might arrest him, I would have said, "What are you smoking?"
I would have said, "What are you smoking?" The woke left's war on free speech has reached a fever pitch, and their latest antics prove they have zero intention of backing down. With his trademark razor-sharp sarcasm absolutely dismantled the woke mob's madness with surgical precision, leaving jaws shattered across the room. This wasn't just commentary. It was a total demolition, the kind that scorches everything in its path. Buckle up, because what you're about to hear isn't smoke, it's pure fire. So, let's dive in.
But that's the great irony. Flag burning is free speech, and free speech is one of the key things that makes America great. So now that I have you on my side on that issue, don't be a hypocrite and defend attacks on speech from the left, because you either get the concept or you don't. And sadly, a lot of people don't anymore.
Bubble, and suddenly you're branded a bigot, a threat, or worse. Maher calls out this hypocrisy with biting precision, reminding us that free speech isn't a privilege reserved for one side. It's a universal right meant for everyone, even those the left can't stand.
Mostly the young who were never taught it by their derelict educational system, but also Lisa Cook. She's the Fed board member Trump is trying to fire for bullshit reasons, and they are bullshit. But when she tried to get another professor fired because he once, according to one student, was less than rapturous about Martin Luther King Day, no, she should know better. She said free speech should have its limits. Yes, it should, and does. And this comes nowhere close to that.
Lisa Cook's case is a curious one because it perfectly illustrates the problem with activist academics who use their positions not to teach but to impose ideology. Reports suggest she was attempting to pressure colleagues and students into adopting her worldview rather than encouraging open debate and critical thinking. That's not education. It's indoctrination. I support her firing because no professor should be allowed to misuse the classroom as a soapbox to advance a personal agenda. Trump isn't silencing her free speech. He's taking a stand against the rampant corruption eroding our education system and protecting impressionable young minds from one-sided propaganda masquerading as scholarship.
It's bad enough that Trump is attacking free speech from the right, throwing the Associated Press out of the press pool, calling reporters enemy of the people, threatening and suing networks simply because he doesn't like the coverage. This country can't become that. But it also can't become what the UK is now, a place where you get arrested for tweets, something that happens 12,000 times a year now in Britain. Last week, the Irish sitcom writer Graham Linehan, who's won an Emmy and 5 BAFTA awards, got off a plane at Heathrow and got arrested by 5 British cops, not because he was selling drones to the Houthis, just because he's a crank who spends way too much time online ranting about gender ideology.
Now, once again, I don't agree with Maher on this point. Free speech isn't an unlimited license. It has boundaries, and rightly so. Take the Associated Press, for example. They were expelled for stubbornly referring to the Gulf of Mexico instead of recognizing it as the Gulf of the U.S. That wasn't a harmless slip. It was a deliberate stance against national interest. Then there's the infamous 60 Minutes lawsuit. Trump rightly pushed back because it was glaringly obvious the program was tilting the scales to boost Kamala Harris. If Trump had delivered that explosive interview, you can bet they would have aired it raw, unfiltered, and completely unedited just to sink him.
Which is an odd obsession for a comedian from across the pond, because if men weren't allowed to dress as women, British comedy wouldn't exist. There'd be absolutely nothing left of Shakespeare but the sonnets, and Monty Python movies would be 20 seconds long. But in the words of that great Brit, Ricky Gervais, if you don't believe in a person's right to say things that you might find grossly offensive, then you don't believe in freedom of speech. You shouldn't have to eat your words at the airport. The chicken Alfredo on the flight was bad enough.
Freedom of speech isn't the privilege of a select elite. It's the God-given right of every human being, a cornerstone of liberty that no government or mob should ever trample on. The moment we allow one group to decide who can speak and who must be silenced, we abandon democracy itself. Disagreeing with someone's words doesn't give you the moral authority to erase their voice. Debate them, challenge them, counter them with better arguments, but don't cancel them into silence. Free societies thrive on diverse opinions, not uniformity. Silencing dissent only breeds tyranny. And that's why protecting free speech isn't optional. It's essential.
Linehan may be crude, but there's plenty of non-crazy people, liberal people, who think the left has gone a little mad with trans issues. Some have expressed that opinion with literary sophistication, like J.K. Rowling. Some by getting big laughs, like Dave Chappelle. And some are downright ugly about it, like Linehan. But ugly is the price of a freedom so great as speech.
Many people have paid a heavy price for daring to criticize the trans movement and the wider ideology surrounding gender. Speaking out, even respectfully, has become a dangerous act in today's climate where disagreement is treated as heresy. The celebrities Trump highlighted are prime examples. Some were brutally can-led, losing endorsements, roles, or entire careers, while others faced harassment, intimidation, and even arrest simply for voicing an opinion that strayed from the approved narrative. This isn't freedom. It's coercion. When society punishes people for speaking uncomfortable truths, it's not progress. It's authoritarianism dressed up as tolerance. The fact that public figures are being silenced should alarm every freedom-loving citizen.
Trump tried to disappear someone for writing an anti-Israel op-ed in a student newspaper, which I found offensive, but I still would go to the mat for that person to be able to print it. And we can fight Trump on this because we have a First Amendment. England does not. And the fact that they don't, that's not a feature, that's a bug. And it's a bug that's going around Europe now. In Germany, a guy called a politician a Pimmel, which is the German word for dick, and it triggered a police raid. What a Pimmel move.
This moment is a powerful reminder of just how good we've got it in the United States and why we must fiercely guard our right to free speech. Unlike in so many parts of the world, Americans can still challenge authority, question institutions, and speak their minds without immediate fear of imprisonment or death. But that freedom is fragile, and the biggest threat often comes from within. When certain groups try to monopolize speech and decide what voices should or shouldn't be heard, that's not liberty. That's control. People must be allowed to express their opinions openly, even if those opinions are controversial or unpopular. If in exercising that right, they cross the line and break the law, then they should be held accountable, but never silenced simply for speaking. Free speech is the cornerstone of freedom, and once surrendered, it is nearly impossible to win back.
A guy from North Yorkshire in Britain faced 2 years in prison for wearing a Halloween costume depicting the terrorist who bombed the Ariana Grande concert. Bad taste? Yeah, bad taste is the whole point of Halloween. This Scottish man was found guilty of hate speech for a YouTube video where he taught his pug to salute when he said Sieg Heil.
Sieg Heil. Sieg Heil.
Elon Musk watched it and said, I don't see it.
I remember the uproar that erupted over Elon Musk's alleged Nazi salute and the controversy it stirred across the internet and mainstream media. The story dominated headlines, pundits piled on, and social media exploded with outrage. Yet, for all the noise, there was one crucial difference between the US and many other parts of the world. No police came knocking on his door. Musk wasn't dragged into court or thrown behind bars for a gesture that people found offensive. Instead, he faced what every public figure faces in a free society: criticism, debate, and backlash. And that's exactly how it should be. Free speech means you have the right to speak or act, but others also have the right to call you out. What it does not mean is criminalizing expression. That incident underscored why America must protect speech, even the speech we hate.
Musk, Kanye, this fucking dog. They're all wrong, and they all have the right to be wrong. Britain is now considering the so-called pub law. Okay, it's not just about pubs. It's a workplace bill aimed at preventing any kind of harassment in the workplace, including verbal remarks overheard. Okay, problem is a pub is a workplace. So's a bookstore. Would a major chain like Waterstones risk hosting a book signing by a controversial author like J.K. Rowling? And pubs? People go to pubs for two reasons: to drink and to exercise their inalienable right to talk shit.
I honestly believe Britain is going down a very dangerous path by pandering to the left and steadily eroding free speech. In fact, they are far worse than America in this regard. What they don't realize is that this kind of censorship will inevitably backfire in the most spectacular and destructive way if it isn't stopped. The alarming reality is that it's no longer just about what you say on the internet. Your workplace has now become a surveillance zone. Say something someone deems offensive, and suddenly you're being reported, investigated, or even whisked away for questioning. This isn't democracy. It's a slow crawl toward authoritarianism. And the irony, all this noise, all this policing of speech isn't even about protecting society. It's about pandering to a fringe woke mob that thrives on outrage and intimidation. If Britain continues down this road, it won't just silence dissent. It will destroy the very freedoms that once defined the nation.
They're not in the House of Lords. They're in a bar called the Drunken Cock. Any Brit will tell you the food is awful, the weather sucks, but at least you can call each other a cunt. And now that's gone? It's like making a rule at the dog park: no ass sniffing.
Bill is absolutely right. Stripping away our ability to freely express ourselves is no different from stripping away a God-given right, such as the right to life itself. Free speech isn't some privilege handed down by government or controlled by cultural elites. It's a fundamental truth of human existence. No one side, no matter how powerful or loud, has a monopoly over what can be said and who gets to say it. Once you allow one group to dominate the conversation and silence everyone else, you've already lost the essence of liberty. A society that only tolerates approved speech isn't free. It's controlled. And history shows us that when free speech dies, every other freedom collapses right after it. That's why it's non-negotiable. The right to speak, debate, question, and even offend is the lifeblood of democracy. Without it, we're nothing more than subjects to the mob or the state. Protecting it is not optional. It's survival.